Hello, fourth grade, and welcome to lesson 9-8. We're going to work today on adding mixed numbers. So let's go ahead and watch our short video. Remember, our mixed numbers are numbers that are made up of a whole part and a fraction part together. So when we're adding mixed numbers, we're going to be moving either across a number line, like we learned in the last lesson. We can be using fraction strips. You have a bunch of different ways that you can go about solving addition sentences with mixed numbers.
How can you add mixed numbers?
There are a couple ways you should know to make solving some equations easier.
Brenda mixes sand with 2 7/8 cups of potting mixture to prepare soil for her plant. After mixing them together, how many cups of soil does Brenda have? What information is in the problem?
So here, this is where we get to the part where we're usually annotating our problem when it's in our book. So we know that she mixes sand with 2 7/8 cups of potting soil mixture. So we would circle that she has 2 7/8 cup of the potting mixture, and then we can see from our picture that she has 1 3/8 cup of sand. We have to figure out, after mixing them together, how much soil does she have. So after we put those two parts together, the potting mix and the sand, we're going to try and figure out what our total is. So whenever we're trying to figure out the total, that means we're going to be adding those parts together to find the sum.
Brenda mixed 2 7/8 cups of potting mixture and 1 3/8 cups of sand. What do you need to find? You need to find how much soil Brenda has after mixing them together. What operation should you use to find how much soil Brenda has?
Select your answer.
You will use addition to find out how much soil Brenda has. You can use properties of operations to add mixed numbers. When you break apart a mixed number to add, you are using the commutative and associative properties. How are the commutative and associative properties used? The commutative property allows you to change the order of the addends, and the associative property allows you to change the way addends are grouped. Together, the properties let you change 2 7/8 plus 1 3/8 to the sum of 2 plus 1 plus the sum of 7/8 plus 3/8. Find 2 7/8 plus 1 3/8 by breaking up mixed numbers. 2 7/8 plus 1 3/8 equals the sum of 2 plus 1 plus the sum of 7/8 plus 3/8. Add the fractions. 7/8 plus 3/8 equals 10/8. Then add the whole numbers. 2 plus 1 equals 3. Write the fraction as a mixed number. 3 10/8 equals 3 plus 8/8 plus 2/8. That equals 4 2/8. Find 2 7/8 plus 1 3/8 by adding equivalent fractions. 2 7/8 equals 2 plus 7/8. 2 is equivalent to 16/8. Then add 16/8 and 7/8. That equals 23/8. 1 3/8 equals 1 plus 3/8 equals 8/8 plus 3/8. That equals 11/8. Why does 2 7/8 plus 1 3/8 equal 23/8 plus 11/8?
So here, let's stop and think about what they just did. They took their mixed number and they turned it into an improper fraction. So they basically did the opposite of what we've been working on. So they decomposed it, the 2 7/8, into 2 whole plus 7/8 parts. We can understand that. Then they took that 2 whole and broke it up in or rewrote it in fraction form. So they could have done 8/8 plus 8/8, or sorry, 8/8 plus 8/8 plus 7/8, but they combined the two 8/8 into 16/8 because this is equal to 2, plus 7/8. 16 plus 7 is 23. So this gave you the improper fraction version of this same number. Here with 1 and 3/8, they broke the 1 into, or they renamed the 1 into its fraction form, which is 8/8 plus 3/8. 8 plus 3 is 11. So now what you can do is you can add these in fraction form and then change it back into a mixed number. So you change it into improper fraction form so you don't have to worry about whole number parts and fraction parts. You're working strictly with fraction parts. And then you rename it after you're done solving.
2 and 7/8 is equivalent to 23/8, and 1 and 3/8 is equivalent to 11/8. So their sums are equivalent. 23/8 plus 11/8 equals 34/8. Write 34/8 as a mixed number. 34/8 equals 8/8 plus 8/8 plus 8/8 plus 8/8 plus 2/8. That equals 4 and 2/8.
Okay, let's pause here for a second. So the way they got 34/8 into 4 and 2/8. Remember, we talked about this. Think of it like division. How many groups of 8 go into 34? Well, we know 8 times 4 is how much? 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16. And then if you double 16, you get to 32. So 4 whole would be 32 over 8 with 2 remainder, right? So those 2 extra are going over here. So 8 goes into 34 4 times with 2 extra pieces left over. So you end up with 4 whole plus 2/8 remaining as your fraction part.
Brenda has 4 and 2/8 cups of soil. Is there another way to change 34/8 to 4 and 2/8? There are other ways to change 34/8 to 4 and 2/8. You could also change 34/8 to 32/8 plus 2/8. 32/8 is equivalent to 4. So 32/8 plus 2/8 equals 4 and 2/8. Now you know how to add mixed numbers.
All right, let's go ahead and get into our notes and our guided practice for this section. 9-8, adding mixed numbers. So how can we add mixed numbers? Well, we can either decompose our mixed number into the whole number parts and the fraction parts, and then we add each one of those groups separately to find the partial sums, and then we combine them together to find the total. Or we can do what we just saw, which is changing our mixed numbers into improper fractions, then adding them, and then changing them back into a mixed number. We find our answer and we change it back to a mixed number. So I'm going to show you how to do it 2 ways, or both ways, with 2 different problems. So for my first problem, I want to find 2 and 7/10 plus 1 and 9/10. So one way is to decompose it right into the whole number parts and fraction parts. The other way is to change them into an improper fraction and then change them back. So if I'm going to decompose, I'll add my whole number parts. 2 plus 1 is 3. Then I'll add my fraction parts. 7/10 plus 9/10 is 16/10. Now I know right away that 16/10 is 10/10 plus 6 more tenths. So that's 1 whole and 6/10. So then I'm going to add these partial sums. My 3 whole plus my 1 and 6/10 from my fraction part gives me 4 and 6/10 as my answer. If I want to do it by changing them into improper fraction, 2 and 7/10 is the same thing as saying 10/10 plus 10/10 plus 7/10, which is 27/10. 1 and 9/10 is the same thing as saying 10/10 plus 9 more tenths, which is 19/10. Then I add these 2 together. 27/10 plus 19/10, we just carry that 10 across in our denominator and we focus on our numerator. 27 plus 19 is 46. 46 over 10. That's our answer. Now, if we want to rewrite this as a mixed number, we're going to look how many groups of 10 go into 46. So 46, if you divide it by 10, you're going to get 40, right? With a remainder of 6. So 4, remainder 6. 4 times 10 is 40, plus 6 more parts. So 4 whole plus 6/10 remaining. You can see that we reached our same answer both ways. It's just a different strategy to use. My next example, I put down find 1 and 7/12 plus 2 and 10/12. So I added my whole number parts for my decomposing strategy. 1 plus 2 is 3. Then I added 7/12 plus 10/12, gave me 17/12, which is the same thing as saying 12/12 plus 5/12, or 1 whole and 5/12. I added those parts. 3 whole plus 1 and 5/12 gave me 4 and 5/12. So 3 plus 1 is 4, and then that 5/12 fraction part. To do it as changing of improper fractions, I had my 1 and 7/12, which is the same thing as saying that 1 whole is 12/12 plus the 7/12, which gave me 19/12. My 2 and 10/12 is the same thing as saying 12/12 plus 12/12 plus that 10/12 part. So 12 plus 12 is 24, plus 10 more is 34. So 19/12 plus 34/12, we leave the 12s alone, we just carry them over. 19 plus 34 is 53. Now I need to think, how do I write this as a mixed number? So how many groups of 12 go into 53? Well, 12 goes into 53 4 times. 12 times 4 is 48. Now to get from 48 to 53, that's 5 extra pieces. So it has a remainder of 5. So 4 whole plus 5/12, 5 extra pieces. Let's try another example. Let's find 2 and 5/6 plus 5 and 4/6. So if I'm going to be adding them together, my 2 and 5/6, my 2 plus 5 is going to give me 7. My 5 plus 4 is going to give me 9/6. 9/6, I can rewrite it as 1 and 3/6. So 7 whole plus 1 plus 3/6 gives me 8 and 3/6 if I did it using my decomposing strategy. If I wanted to rename it from improper fraction to an improper fraction and then back to a mixed number, I can find 3 and 3/4 plus another 3 and 3/4. So 3 and 3/4 is the same thing as saying 4/4 plus 4/4 plus 4/4 plus the 3/4 piece, which is 15 over 4. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 3 is 5, plus 3 is 15. So 15/4 plus another 15/4 will give me 30/4. Now I need to think, how do I change this back to a mixed number? How do I divide 30 by 4? How many groups of 4 go into 30? Well, I know 4 goes into 30 7 times, which gives me 28. 4 times 7 is 28. And then I have 2 extra pieces left over. So my answer is going to be 30/4 is equal to 7 whole and 2/4 pieces left over. Let's try some more examples. Let's find 3 and 2/6 plus 2 and 5/6. So if I add the whole number of parts, 3 and 2 is 5. 2/6 plus 5/6 is 7/6. So I'm going to break apart that 7/6 and says 5 plus 6/6 plus 1/6. So 5 plus 1 is 6, plus that 1/6 extra part gives me a sum of 6 and 1/6. Next, I have 19 over 8 plus 22 over 8. So since we have our like denominator, we just write it down. 19 plus 22 gave me 41. Now to figure out how to write 41 over 8 as a mixed number, I need to think how many groups of 8 go into 41. So 5 times 8 is 40, so that's 5 whole, plus that 1 extra piece, my 1/8. For our guided practice, how do the commutative and associative properties allow you to add the fraction parts and the whole number parts and then add them together? Well, it tells me that I can rearrange my add-ins and group them in any order that I want. So I group my whole number parts together. I rearrange and put my whole number parts together using the commutative property. I group them, the whole number parts and the fraction parts, applying the associative property, and then I can work out my problem. Number 2, how can you use equivalent fractions to find 4 and 2/8 plus 1 and 1/8? So 4 and 2/8, I can rewrite it as my 4. I'm going to rewrite it in fraction form as 8/8 plus 8/8 plus 8/8 plus 8/8. There's 4 of them, plus the 2/8 part. If I add all of these numerators together, I get 34/8. 1/8 I can rename as 8/8 plus the 1/8, which is 9/8. Then I'm going to add these two partial sums together. 34/8 plus 9/8 gives me 43/8. Again, I need to stop and think, 43 divided by 8 is how much, or how many groups of 8 go into 43? I know 5 times 8 is 40, so that's 5 whole, plus 3 extra pieces, which gives me my 3/8. And I showed you guys the math over here on the side. For number 3, 1 and 7/8 plus 1 and 2/8. So I add my whole number parts. 1 and 1 is 2. 7/8 plus 2/8 gave me 9/8. I rewrote my 9/8 as a whole plus 1/8. So 2 plus the whole is 3, plus that 1/8 extra piece. For number 4, we have 2 and 4/10 plus 5 and 5/10. Added the whole number of parts. 2 and 5 is 7. 4 and 5 is 9/10. So 7 and 9/10. For number 5, we had 4 and 2/3 plus 1 and 1/3. So 4 plus 1 is 5. 2/3 plus 1/3 is 3/3. So 5 and 3/3 is the same thing as saying 6 whole. For number 6, we had 6 and 5/12 plus 4 and 11/12. I added my whole number parts first. 6 plus 4 is 10. Added my fraction parts. 5 plus 11 is 16/12. I rewrote this because remember 16/12 we talked about already previously. The same thing as saying 1 and 4/12. So 10 plus 1 and 4/12 is 11 and 4/12. For number 7, we have 2 and 1/3 plus 2 and 1/3. 2 plus 2 is 4. 1/3 plus 1/3 is 2/3. We don't need to rename anything because here our numerator is smaller than our denominator. Next, we have 1 and 9/12 plus 2 and 5/12. I already know the sum of my fractions is going to be more than 12, so I'm going to have to do some renaming. But let's start by adding our whole number parts. 1 plus 2 is 3. 9 plus 5 is 14. So 3 and 14 over 12. We know 14 is 2 extra pieces more than 12 whole, or more than the 12, which makes 1 whole. So 3 plus 1 and 2/12 is 4 and 2/12. That's the end of our lesson for 9-8 about adding mixed numbers. Remember, you can use either one of these strategies. Both work equally well. Both are super helpful. So whichever one you're most comfortable with, you can use, but I do want to make sure you are familiar with both. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you guys have an amazing day. Take care. Bye-bye.